Hello, I'm Kenneth Waller. This is Ben, and today we're going to be discussing evaluating the efficacy of recovery ally programs and challenge course education. Chelsea Shore is our advisor, and one of our mentors is Mia Gomez.
So LIFT is the collegiate recovery program here at Florida State University, and the mission statement of LIFT is to support students interested in recovery from addiction and substance misuse to thrive during their college experience. LIFT views the process of recovery as an individualized, intentional, dynamic, and relational process involving sustained efforts to improve wellness. Students learn beneficial coping skills in an accountable recovery community where they can develop friendships with like-minded peers. And the four pillars are community, scholarship, resiliency, and personal accountability. And at LIFT, there's multiple events throughout the year. We hold book clubs every Thursday. There's yoga nights. There's general body meetings. And there's other just events scattered throughout the year.
Now we're going to introduce ourselves even more. So I'm Kenneth Waller. I'm a second-year student studying biology on the pre-medical track here at Florida State University. I currently serve as a research assistant for the Recovery Ally program, and this program has taught me the importance of living a healthy life and providing support for my peers.
And I'm Ben Markham. I'm a first-year student studying behavioral neuroscience on the pre-medical track at Florida State University. I also serve as a research assistant for the Recovery Ally program. And this program has really taught me the importance of collegiate recovery programs and also the role of support for those seeking recovery. And I'll also introduce Kirsten Price because she also served as a research assistant for the Recovery Ally program. So she's a second-year student majoring in public health and minoring in communications at Florida State University. She serves as a research assistant for the Recovery Ally program and also the campus rec program. And this program has taught her to support peers going through recovery and also how to reach out to those that may need support.
Now I'm going to talk a little bit more about RAP, the Recovery Ally program. So we want to report key findings in the Recovery Ally program, assess consideration for the roles that stigmas play in students seeking recovery, and argue for the importance of a broad and encompassing Recovery Ally program in creating inclusive environments for those in recovery.
So what is the Recovery Ally program? RAP is a 2-hour interactive workshop at Florida State University that covers the full continuum of allyship from substance use through misuse and into recovery. The Recovery Ally program is designed to help students think critically about the roles substances play in their life, teach them skills to intervene with problematic substance use, and also destigmatize self-help behaviors related to recovery from addiction or substance misuse. And RAP has education and group activities to create real life scenarios where the participants can have open conversations about substances, and it also is designed to give students tools for recognizing warning signs, initiating conversations, and connecting with resources to address addiction and substance misuse through individual and collaborative worksheets. And in this presentation, we will describe our implementation process using a student-centered approach, evaluation, and directions for scaling.
We also want to note that RAP is, of course, inclusive for everyone. Anyone's invited to these workshops, and you'll soon understand through our results that they are very enjoyable for these people. So our session will review a program that seeks to promote an inclusive recovery environment for all. We promote inclusion by acknowledging differences and valuing all backgrounds through this program. Some other organizations that have been involved are the Hispanic Latinx Student Union, the Pride Student Union, Women's Student Union, and a fraternity have all participated in focus groups to consult on the development of the Recovery Ally program. We've also invited other identity-based agencies to participate in focus groups, but those are the main ones that did show up.
And we also have RAP all calls, which anyone from campus can come and they are welcome to participate. So the methods for RAP, our evaluation used a pre and post test design through QR codes and the personal cellular devices of participants. So they would scan a QR code before and after the program and fill out the survey. And the survey has 28 questions, including identifiers of the participant, along with their connection to the recovery community. So part one of the survey used 16 statements on a 5-point Likert scale to gauge participants' attitudes towards substance use. And part two used 8 statements, which attempt to assess participants' stigmas towards recovery on a 5-point Likert scale. And for those of you that don't know, the 5-point Likert scale is a 5-point measure of how likely you agree or disagree with a statement. And part three is a post-survey, including an additional section for participants to evaluate their satisfaction with the presentation. For example, their favorite and least favorite parts of the program. And part three was only given on the post-survey. And then results from the pre and post-survey were compared to determine whether the intervention reduces stigmas around recovery and the evaluation areas of improvement.
Now we're going to talk about our results. So current results from part one of the survey indicate that there were some changes in attitudes towards substance use. So 9 of the 16 questions, or roughly 56%, showed a decrease in the mean from the pre and post measures, suggesting students are thinking more critically about why other people using substances is justifiable. 7 of the 16 questions, or roughly 44%, showed an increase in the mean from the pre and post measure. These items related mostly to celebratory occasions or processing emotions, suggesting students agreed with their peers' substance use intermittently when doing so responsibly. We're going to talk a little bit more about what these numbers mean. So as you can see, there's quite a few questions there. Some of the questions we asked were because they like the taste. They would answer questions like that. Because they like the feeling, because it is exciting to get high. Do you want to talk a little bit more about what those numbers mean?
Yeah, so if you look on this right side of the screen, you can see the same exact questions that were asked on the survey. So the initial question was, why do people like using substances? And then these list of statements were given, and participants said how likely they agreed or disagreed with the statement. For example, if you really agreed that someone used substances because they like the taste, then you put strongly agree. And if you really disagreed, you put strongly disagree. And then we took the means from this scale, from this 5-point Likert scale, from the baseline and the post mean, and then we compared them. And we really saw that it wasn't obvious whether the majority increased or decreased, which is a good thing, because all we were looking for was a change. We just wanted to see if students were thinking critically about substance use, and we weren't necessarily looking for an increase or decrease.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, the big thing about these numbers is noticing a change. And as we can see, there are certainly lots of changes between these means. Some have bigger change than others, but as you can see for part two, it goes the same way.
So our results in part two of the survey really addressed stigmas towards people in recovery, and it suggested a reduction in stigma. So for 5 out of the 8 questions, which is roughly 62.5%, they showed an increase in the mean after the program. While 3 out of the 8, which is roughly 37.5%, saw a decrease in the mean. So if you look on the right side again, this is part 2 of the survey. Some questions, for example, were most people would willingly accept someone who has been treated for substance use as a close friend. And we can see how the baseline generally increased, which is a good thing because this meant participants were more likely to agree, which indicated the stigma and reduction. Because if you look at these statements, agreeing really indicates that you're showing less stigma towards those in recovery. And then part 3 indicated student participants enjoyed the RAP. They found it both informative and interactive, and people were also likely to recommend the program to a friend. And they said they were 7.6 out of 10 in their likeliness to recommend it to a friend. Do you have any
Yeah, and I mean, as you can see from the results, there's certainly like drastic changes. I'm noticing the second question we asked, which is most people believe that someone who has been treated for substance use is just as trustworthy as the average citizen. As you can see from the results, I mean, our participants, their attitudes certainly change for a question like this the most compared to another question like the first one. Most people would willingly accept someone who has been treated for substance use as a close friend. I mean, these attitudes do change.
And this change really indicates that people are agreeing more with these statements, which does indicate towards a reduction in stigma.
And that's all we wanted to prove with this Recovery Ally program. Now we're going to talk a little bit more about our discussion. So these results did provide some evidence that the RAP is effective in changing attitudes towards people who use substances and reducing stigmas towards people in recovery. Unfortunately, the small sample size of 13 prevented significance testing for the current report, but one of the main challenges of RAP was recruiting participants. And I want to go back to that second bullet point. Even though we had a small sample size, it's important to note that these students still found this program very enjoyable, and obviously their attitudes did change from the results in the previous slides. And we could use further research to find more participants in order to run a significance test on the results. So we do plan on pursuing further research with this program.
And I think this shows that even though this data is preliminary, it really shows how a program such as the Recovery Ally program could really help not only Florida State, but colleges around the country, because it's definitely, from the preliminary evidence, it definitely helps those in recovery feel more welcome because there's less stigmas on college campus.
Yeah, I mean, this program, obviously RAP is great, but we're fostering this inclusive environment that opens these conversations to these students and allows them to understand that it's okay to talk to peers and possibly look into having like a peer accountability partner, things like this. It's all healthy habits that we're trying to teach throughout this program.
And also that it's safe and welcome to seek recovery if you feel you may need it.
Absolutely. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Allison Blosky. I am a junior at Florida State University, and I am majoring in social work. I am an undergraduate research assistant with the Campus Rec program under LIFT, and I'm interested in substance use and misuse and the systems that affect people in recovery.
Hi, everyone. My name is Fabiana. I'm a senior at Florida State University, majoring in psychology and minoring in education. I serve as an undergraduate research assistant with Campus Rec under the LIFT program, and I'm interested in destigmatizing mental health and addiction while providing support to people in recovery.
So Campus Rec, the Campus Rec program was a Recovery Ally Challenge course that was delivered to a fraternity at a large 4-year public institution. Campus Rec provided the participants with an experiential learning activity with debrief questions that connected the process of recovery to physical activity, and this was in an effort to reduce the stigma surrounding addiction and recovery. The activities in this project focus on supporting students to develop the needs for assessing their substance use and forming recovery-friendly environments. This was done through critical self-reflection and problem-solving activities. So throughout this presentation, we will report on the implementation process, evaluation methods, and scaling.
So a little background on Campus Rec and the Phoenix. So the FSU's Campus Recreation Department develops interactive and experiential team-building programs to meet certain group-specific needs. This study utilized the Express Challenge Course program, which is used by different student orgs, community groups, businesses, and beyond. The Phoenix is a nonprofit organization that provides free sports and activities to anyone with 48 hours of continuous abstinence. This model provides a positive peer, social group, and access to engaging events to people in recovery. There is a gap in leveraging the success of the Campus Recreation Challenge Course program to focus on group dynamics related to addiction, substance misuse, and/or recovery. It is successful in enhancing communication and team building, but has not yet designed a program that highlights the role of these concepts in the process of addiction or recovery. The Phoenix has successfully mastered this type of program and assisted LIFT in establishing a program specific to the Florida State University student body.
So our edition of the challenge course education, we wanted to hit 3 main points. So the first one is to describe. We wanted to understand the connection between the process of recovery and physical activity. Second is evaluate. We wanted to assess and integrate campus recs, student center activities about the individual and community process of recovery, addressing stigmas among students facing recovery. And the third is to create. We wanted to integrate collegiate recovery programs for students in recovery and find students seeking to reduce stigmas and become an ally.
Social justice, equity, and inclusion. So the Campus Rec pilot program aimed to reduce the stigma and marginalization through a recovery-informed and recovery-friendly environment in Greek life. Integration of the themes of social justice, equity, and inclusion by the education of an all-male, predominantly white fraternity about barriers to seeking recovery and policies that hinder support for certain populations. Implementation. So from August 22nd to December 9th, the research was conducted. On September 17th of 2022, we sent an immediate post survey. On October 17th in 2022, we sent a 30-day follow-up survey. And on December 17th of 2022, we sent a 90-day follow-up survey.
Hi everyone, my name is Mia and I'm a student mentor on the Campus Recreation Challenge Course Intervention Pilot Program. And I am going to be talking about the day of the intervention. So it took place on September 17th, 2022. We got started around 9 a.m. Everyone from the group got to the location that we were doing the intervention, and everyone signed in. If they hadn't already taken the pre-survey, signed the consent form and the Phoenix team member agreement the day before, then they had a chance to do it when they signed in. And then after everyone was signed in, we got into all of the activities. So there were 4 activities, and the first and the fourth activity were with the whole group, and the activity 2 and 3, the group was split in 2. So it was half the group for each. And the first activity was an icebreaker introduction activity. So whenever the participants went to a corner, they had an icebreaker question. And for the last part of that activity, last question was the first word that comes to mind when you hear "I'm in recovery." And then there were 3 more activities: key punch, tanks, and captains coming. And during each activity, we had the student volunteers for the CRP acted as observer participants. So we took field notes and we helped facilitate debrief discussions. And all of these student volunteers from the Collegiate Recovery Program have intimate connections to the recovery community and have been trained to deliver recovery-informed programs. And for the debriefs, after each activity, participants engaged in a debrief discussion that connected the activities to the process of addiction and recovery. So each activity emphasized a different challenge or stigma associated with addiction and recovery, and debrief discussions centered specifically on participants' reactions to mistakes, attitudes toward recovery and addiction, facilitating recovery-informed environments, and the importance of clear communication, boundaries, and trust. So, for example, for the 4 corners activity, the debrief discussion we asked questions like, did any of the responses surprise you? Did any responses change your approach to recovery or your response? And what did you notice about what other students were saying? And some other questions centered on how did making one mistake in an activity affect your approach to the rest of the activity? And did it make it easier to make more mistakes? And then we tied each discussion and activity back to the process of recovery. So, for example, making one mistake might make it easier for you to make more mistakes or more likely because you're not viewing it as a learning experience. And for after we finished each activity, there was an immediate follow-up survey that looked at attitudes toward active substance use and stigmas toward people in recovery. So this is it's the same measures from the pre-survey. And then after everyone took the follow-up survey and left, we had a facilitator focus group immediately conducted following the intervention to gauge perceptions of the activities. So what went well and what could have been better. And overall, we thought that the intervention went really well. It seemed like the group was already very comfortable with each other, and we were really surprised at how smoothly everything ran and at how well everyone was communicating with each other and how engaged they were with the activities and the discussions.
Our methods, during our program, we used both quantitative and qualitative data. Our quantitative method included a survey that had questions related to their recreational sports involvement, their substance use behavior, and their frequency of use, along with their reasons of using, their attitudes about active substance use, their stigma towards peers in recovery, and the group climate on enmeshment and how they influence each other within that group. And the qualitative methods included our observations at the time of the challenge course. So our observations included statements from the participants describing their verbal and nonverbal cues and the mechanisms for success or lack thereof in the program.
Evaluation methods. Qualtrics was used to administer a survey with the following measures. 1. Connection to the recovery community. 2. Recreational sports involvement survey. 3. The frequency of substance using behaviors. 4. The reasons for substance use. 5. The attitudes towards active substance use. 6. Stigma towards peers in recovery. 7. Group climate, enmeshment and influencing group climate. And last, 8. Group climate, discouraging substance use.
So our scaling, during our program, we had one facilitator per 10 people and at least 3 of the activities. And the prospective participants should have scored high on the recreational sports involvement survey. Although we are unsure if this would be beneficial to groups that have no or little experience with substance use or a low group climate.
So data analysis are currently being conducted with assistance from OIR. Preliminary evidence indicates the pilot program positively impacted the participants in reducing stigma surrounding substance misuse and recovery.
And these are our references.